Hi, I'm 2021 Why Not Cam Awards winner Chelsea Poe. I'm here to tell you about my cam studio, Treasure Cams. Treasure Cams is a performer-led webcam studio owned by queer porn star Bella Vendetta. We welcome all 21 plus models who want to earn a paycheck from home as cam performers. We're open to all body types, genders, persuasions, and presentations. You get access to our performer-only forums, monthly team meetings, as well as help with promotion and marketing. For customers, check out treasurecams.com to see all of our models, schedules, and photos. treasurecams.com. Have you ever been looking for an amazing queer cam performer? Well, I got you covered. You should check out TS Cami. Her super hot content is on Chatterbait, Twitter, Xhamster, and Reddit. Support this rad trans femme babe. I'm Chelsea Poe, and I'm here today with Maddie Royce. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Chelsea. Thanks so much for having me on.
I'm so excited to have you on. This is the second Chicago week in a row. We had Electra Rain on last week.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we're going like very Chicago. I'm assuming you know I'm from 2 hours north of Chicago in Holland, Michigan.
Yes.
So Chicago is always like the big city to me in my mind forever. So that there's just like so much cool porn stuff and BDSM stuff happening there right now.
We're a freaky city. And like, unfortunately, I'm a little bit out of the loop in terms of like local happenings. But as I've been catching up over like the past year or so, I'm amazed at all the stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, so are you originally from Chicago or did you move from somewhere else in the Midwest like everyone does, I feel like, or
Yes, I'm a transplant like everyone else. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I moved
okay,
here when I was 20. So that was 14 years ago.
nice. So yeah, what really like made you decide to get into like the whole world of like porn? Were you like in the BDSM world before that or
So I've always been kinky and I've always, I don't know, just been drawn to BDSM, like even before I ever really knew what it was or like was exposed to, porn or like just like experimentation in my personal life. So I actually like, I played around as a teenager and
Mhm.
experimented and like did all that, but I didn't really get involved in the scene or anything until I was 18 and I was living with a dancer who worked at the Hustler Club over in East St. Louis, part of the
Mm.
Sage Ballet. And she had a couple clients that she saw outside of the club that were submissive. And I was kind of like the down for whatever freaky friend, like super open minded, like
Mhm.
non judgmental. So she was just sort of like, "Do you want to make some extra cash?" And I was working at a landmark theater, like, a super
Mhm.
fancy art house, foreign film, all
Yeah,
that.
the hipster theaters, yeah.
I was yeah, like, it all like, all of this, like, makes sense with, like, who I am
Oh,
today. So we
100%. Yeah. You read as someone who worked at a Midwestern hipster theater, for sure.
like, is it the glasses? Is it the turtleneck?
I feel like when you live in the Midwest, you just like pick up on the things of other hipster like Midwesterners or who are into like cool alternative culture where you're like, "Oh, you're different."
Yeah, because we kinda had to, I don't know, like, signal it to each other in a
For
way,
sure.
because like, the smaller the city, the more of a weirdo you were, even when you weren't even really that much of a weirdo at all. Um,
Yeah, I feel
but yeah, so I was
that.
making I'm sure. I was making like 750 an hour, so I'm like, yeah, I want to make extra money. So we met one of her clients at, a super sketchy motel, and it was a human ashtray and CBT and humiliation session, which definitely set the tone for like the rest of my like
Yeah,
personal and professional exploration. It was pretty hardcore for a first scene.
for sure. That's definitely hardcore. So like were you like exposed to BDSM like earlier on where you're like, "Oh, this is the thing I'm into." Because I remember the first time I was on MySpace and I saw a girl in a cage. I'm like, "I don't know what this is, but I want to be involved in it."
I mean, I definitely stumbled across some of my dad's porn and like I mean, I don't speak to that man and I don't even know what he's into. I don't let's not even venture into
Yeah.
guessing. But I remember like accidentally turning on the TV and it was a fetish porn video and it was like, a woman wearing like so much PVC, like the boots, corset,
Ooh.
everything, and just kind of thinking like, ooh, I want to be her. Like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Kind of like you with the girl in the cage.
Yeah.
Like, I like this. Um, and then whenever I like, I don't know, just saw movies or TV shows that I can't think of any off like the top of my head, but
Mhm.
just moments of tension or kind of darkness or taboo, I would always be like, ooh.
Yeah, I feel like there was like a lot of things in culture. Like, how old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 34.
Okay, so we're about the same age. I'm 32. Like, I remember like Dita Von Teese like being all over the place back then. Also, like, I
And
don't.
Masumi Max too. That was
Yeah,
a very rough loss because I was like, holy
yeah.
shit, like that was another person where I saw her and I was like, I want to be that.
It's so crazy, like, that was her and Jesse Jane in such a short period of time during AVN. Like, that's still one of the heaviest AVNs I've ever been to. And, like, also, Jesse Jane was like the industry. She was hosting AVN the year before I was nominated for the first time. It's just like so crazy that those two losses happened the time they did, and they were both so young. It's just so sad.
It was so tragic and it also like I don't know, it was just kind of like almost a like holy shit moment. Like things have changed. It's no longer like the aughts anymore.
Hmm.
It put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I'm assuming that's probably the era of porn that most spoke to you was like the alt porn of like the um late
Belladonna was
2000s.
like
Yeah,
my hero. Like,
million percent.
so yeah, that was definitely the era. Also too, I went to Catholic school, so I don't even think I need to like say anything further. But yeah, Catholic school. I got slapped by a nun once, and that was a formative experience.
How old were you?
I was pretty young. She was straight from the Vatican too, and she was teaching our
Whoa.
class Italian. Yeah, the Pope came over to St. Louis at some point, and he brought over a bunch of nuns, and this nun just decided to stay at our parochial school. But she was definitely kind of she was a top for sure. I mean, maybe in an abusive sense, but
That's just crazy working at the Vatican and then like going to St. Louis, Missouri and be like, this is it. This is it.
I'm gonna slap around children.
This is it. This is what all this has been leading to in my life. Yeah, I feel like we get a lot of people, especially in like the BDSM world, who have the Catholic background. It's just like a pipeline, it feels like.
It really is. And like, I don't know, they're so like, is it the repression? I don't know. Cause most of the people I know that are Catholic like never took it seriously because you're just like, okay, I can go to confession and like say 10 Hail Marys and it like doesn't matter that I like went to an orgy last weekend.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who I knew who went to Catholic school was like, I don't believe in God anymore.
Yeah, and like the uniforms were just hot.
Hmm.
I used to still
So
have my
good.
uniform, but I lent it to an old friend as a Halloween costume and I never got it back.
Well, always something for the future to like rework and, you know.
Definitely. I have too many ideas these days.
So you did your like first cock and ball torture scene. Pretty extreme shit for your first time. Like,
Yeah.
so what were you feeling after that? Were you just like, oh my God, I want more of this? Or were you like, oh my God, what the fuck is this?
I was like invigorated. I was like, I want more of this. Like next time you need me, tell me I'm there. I was ready to go. And of course I didn't really know how to like seek this stuff out. And I don't think my friend did either because it's not even like she was posting ads. Um but then I decided I quit my job at the little movie theater and I
Hmm.
decided to move to Chicago and I had a job lined up here. But it fell through. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do, but I have an idea of what I can do for some money. So I like kind of just like fell onto posting ads on Craigslist and Backpage and like figuring it out.
Yeah, so you
Um,
were doing like very like in-person stuff.
yeah, just kind of like I literally had no idea what I was doing and I'm really fortunate that like I didn't have any negative experiences. Because it was just like I would just meet people. And there was no screening or anything. I mean, I would talk to them a little bit beforehand. And there were a couple scenes where I was like, I don't know about this person. I'm not going to go to this. Um, and then eventually I met a friend's girlfriend and she was working at a local dungeon. And she was like, hey, we're hiring. You should like, come do this and like learn more. So I interviewed and I got hired there and ended up working there for 5 years, which is like what brought me to talking to you.
That's so cool. So at what point were you like, I want to put this online?
So to make a cinematic reference, in 2017, my life turned into a Scorsese movie because
Hmm.
the dungeon I worked at got raided by the FBI.
Holy shit.
So
Why?
I mean, because it wasn't, a dungeon on the up and up. We did full service
Mm.
sex work. We organized trips, across state lines,
Hmm.
the Mann Act, all that fun stuff. And this was around the time that Backpage got seized,
Yeah, that was
and
huge.
Costa Sesta. Like this is just all the same time period, like really when the industry hit the turning point. And I was shell shocked and I was just very like traumatized. So I kind of took a few months. I quit and took a few months to recalibrate. And then I was like, well, like I don't really want to go work in any other field. I love my job.
Hmm.
So I did a lot of research and I started working on Night Flirt and eventually creating clips.
So were
So
you there when it got raided or?
no. um
Okay, that's good at least.
I lucked out. It was a really toxic environment. My boss was a very bad person, and I was definitely overdoing it with like drinking and just kind of self-medicating. So I had gotten absolutely smashed the night before. I overslept my alarms and I was on my way to go into the dungeon when I got the phone call to not go in because we were getting raided.
Oh my God. It's just so crazy because I talk to people all around the world on this. And like in so many countries, like Australia, for example, the legal version of sex work is full service, but porn, there's all these restrictions on. So it's just like so crazy that varies country by country so much that like in one place, the intuitive thing that is illegal is completely legal and vice versa. And I think it just like speaks to so much why decrim is just so important everywhere.
Yes, and happy belated sex worker rights day too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was 2, 3 days ago, something like
Yeah,
that.
I was distracted with soccer. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, decrim now, please, and especially because now we're seeing them. No sex work should be criminalized. But now it's like instead of taking away the criminalization, it's like they're further enforcing it upon you know like venues of sex work that are supposed to be legal. Like it's
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And
And
it's kind of re-traumatizing for someone like me who left in-person sex work because of something so terrible and now I'm like what where do we go from here if this legislative stuff, continues to go forward.
for sure. It's just like so concerning in the United States because even if you're doing completely legal sex work, they can still take your bank accounts. They can still take your, like, I've had my PayPal banned since I've been 19 and banned for life over a
Oh,
$35 cam show. It's
oh
just
my
like
god.
so crazy. And there's just like so many different apps I'm banned off of, literally for being a sex worker. And it's crazy that you can be a tax paying citizen and doing all the right things, not have anything on your record and still you've just faced this level of criminalization.
It's wild, and my friends, who don't do sex work are always in disbelief about it, but I am constantly sending them articles and, people's tweets and things like that to be like, "This is a real thing that's happening," and also they're going to be applying these tactics to you,
For sure.
just as a woman or a queer person or a marginalized person, like, they're coming for you next, pay attention.
Yeah, my like outlook on stuff in the United States is just so bad, honestly, that I'm just like, if I can get out, I'm gonna try to get out. But
I
it's
hear
just,
that.
yeah, it's just really sad. But I think there's also a lot of really amazing things happening in the world of sex work and particularly porn, that it's more visible than ever before. That you're having songs win Grammys that are talking about OnlyFans. Like, who would have thought? You know what I mean?
And it's like more accessible than ever to like create it and get, equipment to like even step your game up a bit. And there's so many like resources and tutorials and
Hmm.
like, I mean, it's like the best time and the worst time.
Yeah, I mean, when I started porn in like 2013. It was still very much based around, oh, this guy runs a company because he has a camera, and he
Yep.
knows what porn is because he has a camera. Where now it's like anyone can shoot that quality with their iPhone. And it's just like such a game changer that anyone can shoot anything now, basically.
And I love it because it like cuts out like the toxic middlemen. That
Hmm.
was a huge lesson and regret from like working at the dungeon, which, it was a wake up call. Is I should have gone independent and did this on my own, long before anything catastrophic ever happens. Because there's really like, outside of sites taking a cut, which obviously, not all like some of us have worked towards, not
Hmm.
having to deal with. But like someone, taking a cut off of your labor, like an individual profiting off of your labor is just like, ugh. The more we
Yeah,
can avoid that, the better.
it's really bad. So you mentioned Belladonna. Who were other like performers or like doms who you looked up to when you like started getting into it?
Someone that you worked with before, Princess Donna.
Holy shit, yeah, they're the I'm
Yeah,
still like I'm still in awe of them. Like every time they text me, I'm like, what the fuck?
I would definitely feel the same way. Like
Yeah,
it's I would just honestly say all the kind of OG kink.com people, that was the big like got the gears turning in my mind.
yeah. Do you know, were you into Bobby Starr?
I don't that name does not ring a bell.
She was like one of the she was like a mainstream girl who went to Kink as a director, and she shot some really cool stuff. But for me, like Kink.com is Princess Donna, honestly. Like,
Same. Like she was just so iconic and like just the stuff she did, no one else was doing it. Like it was creative, it was fucked up, it was just and it felt real. It never felt like some forced bullshit. It always just felt like you were in the room, even though you're, behind your computer.
for sure. It's yeah, there's very few people I met in this industry who I'm like, oh my fucking God. Meeting Stoya and Princess Donna were like the top two where I'm like, that you know who I am as a person is just too much for me.
Yeah, I
Like,
would have the biggest like fangirl moment.
yeah, I shot Princess Anna. I put on a public disgrace in October, and even just like in the talk to the audience beforehand, just like standing there, I'm like, holy shit, this is Princess Donna giving a talk before a public disgrace scene. This is amazing. I was even like thinking in my head that obviously I'm the sub in the scene, but I'm just like, wow, that we're getting to see this again.
You're like even more like humbled. You're like humbled on different levels. That's such a badass full circle moment though.
Yeah, for sure, because I started working at Kink in 2013. And they basically were like, "Oh, you're a dom, right?" I'm like, "No." After they hired me and brought me out to the Bay, and
Oh
they're
my
like,
god.
"Oh, okay, well, we can't give you any other work other than camming." I'm like, "Fuck."
Aw.
So also when I moved here, I was like, the reason I immediately said yes to kink.com was I'm like, "Oh, Princess Donna, right?" But she
Mhm.
left 3 months before I got here. So I'm just like, who
Two
are all
ships
these
passing in the
people?
night.
Yeah, so it was really great that we got to make that, and I think that's like the hottest porn site in the world to me is Public Disgrace. Like nothing
That's the pinnacle.
for me, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like I feel like it's the most extreme porn that there kind of is.
I would say so, yeah, because it definitely almost like it has that element of like obviously like everything is done, safely, sanely, consensually, but it
Yeah,
feels so like just kind of risky and I mean extreme.
for sure. I felt like I was like in like a 5 round like MMA fight or something after it. I was like so bruised up. It was like the craziest thing, most extreme thing I've ever performed in.
I love
But
that experience for you though.
yeah, it was definitely something I wanted to for a really long time and something I honestly kind of gave up on. But it took like 9 months of production work. It was
I
so
believe
fun.
it.
It was so stressful because you're throwing a party, but then you're also having a porn scene on top of it. So you're
Yeah,
like
like
having
so
to
many
hit people.
moving
You have
factors.
to like hit people up and be like, "Hey, do you want to see me get fucked up?" And then be like, "Okay, you have to be here at this time. Bring your ID, like all this shit." So yeah, I'm hoping there's more of it in the future. Like, I truly believe like BDSM is a better place with her making porn.
I agree. And like she's such I don't know, she's a legend and she gets it and she's always like constantly pushing the envelope. Like
For sure.
even when it comes to sites, now we're of course we're dealing with like sites having more and more restrictions. So I'm
Hmm.
always on like her Twitter like what is Princess Donna doing? What are they doing? Like
For
where are
real.
they selling? Like where cuz I would like to make more extreme content.
Hmm.
It's just relearning how to navigate, terms of service and like, is it even worth my time to sell? Because like, I don't know, I'm all about the blood and the piss, but I feel like that's just censored on so many sites that I
For
can't.
sure.
No one can
She
fully see what a
she
freak
has
I am.
found a site where she can post anything because I like see it's like her pissing in some girl's mouth and then that girl like vomiting into like someone else's mouth. I'm like, girl, you're like doing the most. And it's like so cool to see like porn continue to push that stuff.
Yeah.
But what really like fucked me up was I didn't realize they didn't own any of the stuff from Public Disgrace.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so when we worked together, it was such a big deal for them because they're like, I've never owned one of these. I'm just like, oh my God, you need
That's like,
to. This is yours.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's disappointing, but at least that's like, changed now and
Hmm.
there's ownership over it.
Yeah, so I'm just really glad that like she's making porn and yeah, I think we have some our same age and getting into the industry around the same time. I feel like it's all the same like reference
I'm like
points.
I'm always able to kind of tell, like, through people's tweets, like, it's, not even necessarily like specific things, but just references. I'm like, okay, like, it's definitely like a huge overlap, which I love too. Like, kindred, freaky spirits.
Yeah, it's also weird because we're now getting old in this industry. So now we're like, it's like 3 or 4 porn generations past and being like, that girl's still, in my head, the best performer.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's because the industry has opened up so much, and because people are doing so much themselves that it's like, I don't wanna say that, like, there's not porn stars anymore because that's not true, but it just seems a lot different, and you really have to, like, go out of your way to stand out where, as there were just less people before, it was easier to do that, and, like, that's why, Belladonna and Stoya and Princess Donna are just, like, cemented in our
Yeah.
brains forever as,
I think,
like, the standard.
I mean, even like 10 years ago, you could, if you saw Jenna Jameson down the street, you'd be like, holy shit, that's Jenna Jameson. Like,
Yeah.
there's performers who've accomplished more things. Like, Angela White has won more AVNs than like fucking anyone. Like, on paper, they're the best active performer, most awarded, but I don't think most people would immediately recognize them walking down the street, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely that, just like on the street, like recognition, it's hard to come by. But meanwhile, us, we'd be like, oh,
Exactly. A million
fangirl.
percent.
Like you made me want to do extreme anal insertions.
So do you mostly just shoot in Chicago? Like, I really love this idea that there's all these people. I mean, it feels like the Chicago scene's like fairly large now, which when I was considering doing porn, the idea of going to Chicago to shoot porn really wasn't on there. It was like, okay, I guess I need to go to SF or Oakland to shoot queer porn.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, even when, started like doing full service sex work and like working at the dungeon, it's like all of the professional BDSM people, like we may not have known each other, like, friends met, but we all
Hmm.
knew who each other was. Like everyone, like, oh, I've seen their ads, I've seen her ads, we
Hmm.
have clients in common. And then there were like the kind of like smaller group of people that did shoot porn, but they were always flying out to San
Yeah.
Francisco or LA. Like it was never really happening in Chicago. And now it's just kind of like exploded and there's like so many doms that I'm like, ooh, I don't know you, but you seem like a badass. Like, where did you come from? Where, and then I kind of see the same people that, you know, I used to know, like in our age and experience group,
Hmm.
where I'm like, you're still at it, I'm still at it.
Yeah.
But it really has been an explosion. I have never shot outside of Chicago though.
That's so cool though, that like you're making porn, you're like generating income from it, and you're doing it literally just in Chicago. Like that's why I
Living
think
the
like this whole
dream.
market has changed, that you can be a porn star kind of anywhere now. You don't have to be in one of the 4 or 5 cities that are deemed porn cities.
Yeah, I mean, you just need a camera and an internet connection basically, and like I'm trying to like I think what stops me from making more content is I'm a perfectionist, and the lesson
Mm,
I'm trying to learn this year is you know, perfection is going to prevent my progress, so I need to just like get over myself and make the ideas that I want to make happen. Um and I would be open to shooting. I would be open to shooting and traveling and like doing all of that.
hmm.
I took an absence from shooting for a few years. So I'm trying to like slowly dip my toes back in and like kind of like relearn the basics and like focus on myself. And then hopefully in the next year, like open it up to like collabs and, you know, just seeing where it takes me.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like just Chicago feels so different now, where like I've only been back to the Midwest once since the pandemic, and I flew directly into Grand Rapids. So
Um,
now I'm like, oh my God, I want to go to Chicago. There's all these people who are shooting BDSM there. Like it feels like this almost like shooting destination, as I would view something like Vegas, where it's like, okay, there's all these people making stuff there, you know?
and like so many different people with so many different styles and like areas of expertise, like I don't know, and it is and it's just a fun city to visit too, and I can drag you to a soccer game. I can take you
Yeah.
to a Red Stars game.
So this is how we actually got connected. I have a sports podcast, and obviously, I was very much about the Women's World Cup, with the Dutch team being so fucking gay. It was like, I think out of their starting 11, I think 9 were out as lesbians.
I love it.
And that's how we ended up getting in contact. So, did you grow up playing soccer? I played until high school when I ruptured my spleen. And I was like,
Ooh.
I played forward and I was on a break, and the keeper slid my legs out from under me on turf.
Ooh.
And yeah, at that point, I'm like, I'm getting hurt too much doing this. I need to probably not do this.
Damn. I'm just
Did
like
you?
sorry. I'm like very
Yeah, it
visceral
sucks.
reaction to the spleen rupture. Oh.
Yeah, it was not great. That was the same game where someone on my team went for a header and they took it on their orbital bone, someone else's head, and it flipped it all the way around and like went through the skin. It was so bad. See, my injury
What
was
were
right
y'all
after.
doing? Like, whoa, this is like
And that's just the Midwest, I guess. It's just like you don't know. You just go for it.
see, I guess I was lucky because I did play a little bit of soccer, but I really like I've never been an athlete type. Like, so, you know, I did the sports as a kid. But both of my parents are actually like in sports.
Oh, okay.
My mom used to work for an indoor soccer league
Mm.
as their public relations person. And then my dad is a sports writer. So I've
Oh,
always kind
cool.
of had just like a sports background. But I rebelled against that when I was a pretentious teenager working at
Same. I was like, I don't like this, but I would still, growing up in Michigan, I would still watch Michigan games, obviously. I'm like, that's religion, though. You have to do that.
it's like more important than church in the Midwest.
For
Um,
sure.
but so I kind of disavowed it for a long time. And then I got into soccer to spite an ex. Um, and that kind of started my soccer journey in like 2014. And yeah, it's been off to the races ever since.
So, my problem with following soccer, so I played it obviously, but I feel like being in the Midwest, you just didn't have much exposure to it. I mean,
Yeah,
MLS in the mid 2000s wasn't really anything exciting. It was still very much like, who cares? You know, it was like, why
it
is
had like
Real Salt Lake?
circus, low budget, kind of hokey circus vibes too, which
Yeah,
I
for
miss now.
sure.
I miss that.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. Like I never really engaged in it. Even being in like Michigan, it was like the Chicago Fire was there, but like it was never a thing where my family was like it's not like being like let's go to a Cubs game like once a year, you know? And
Yeah, you're
like
not gonna pack up the van and, like, drive, 4 hours to go see the Chicago Fire play.
yeah, for sure.
I don't think
So
anyone would do that today in 2024 either.
I honestly don't even know where they play. I feel like I follow sports fairly well in the States and I'm like I could not tell you where the Chicago Fire play.
They play at Soldier Field now, home of the Bears, home of
Why?
failure, home of despair.
Wait, why? They're not selling that out. They're not
Oh, they're
selling.
not. It's really funny. They did claim to sell it out for the Inter Miami game that Messi was supposed to play
Yeah.
in, but we all knew Messi wasn't playing that. Anyone that wasn't born yesterday knew that Messi wasn't playing. So they're like, "We sold out the game." And we're like, "Did you though? Did you really?" Because that stadium is going to be like not even full as soon as Messi like they announced that he's not going to be there. And sure enough, they announced he wasn't going to be there and then everyone's like, "I want a refund." And it's like that's not how sports works. You don't buy a ticket for one player. You buy a ticket for the game. I have
Just
thoughts and opinions on the messification of MLS.
I'm honestly here for all of this because this podcast can be everything. So I want so first off, like when you got into soccer, how did you choose your club? Like how did that happen? Like have you gone to London a lot or like
Not yet. It's on my bucket list. I was supposed to go in 2020 and then obviously we know what happened then.
yeah.
Um, So I chose Arsenal out of spite. One of my ex-partners was a Tottenham fan, and Tottenham and
Okay.
Arsenal, longtime rivals.
Yeah, huge North London derby, right?
Yeah. So he told me the worst things I could ever do to him were cheat on him and support Arsenal. So when our relationship soured, I did both. And I cheated on him with a Newcastle supporter. That's
I
for all the cuckolds out there, like soccer cuckoldress over here.
I love this because also like I moved out to the West Coast when I was 22. So like my little brother back home in Michigan, Arsenal supporter, my friends in London all support Arsenal. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Like never really had any strong things to any EPL teams in general. So I was like, okay. But like to watch the games here, you have to wake up at like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. It's the same thing with
Sometimes, yeah.
it's the same thing with F1. I'm not doing that for a sport that I'm trying to get into.
I have friends that do both. I have diehard Arsenal supporting friends who are also F1 fans, and I'm just like, you guys are stronger and more like powerful people with more endurance than me. Like, I salute you.
Yeah, I feel like if you're on the East Coast, it's at least a little bit easier, but the West Coast,
Oh my God.
it's impossible.
I once went to LA because I was seeing someone out there and we ended up watching a North London derby in LA and like basically the LA group just did an all-nighter. And it was a lot. It was a marathon. And I was just like, because I was thinking about moving to LA, and then I was
Mhm.
like, I mean, there were a few factors as to why I decided not to, but I was very much like, I don't know if I could like support this thing that I love so much, and like, I'm already dealing with a sleep deficit, but yeah, that West Coast time difference like really fucks things up.
Yeah, that's my one fear about moving to Amsterdam is I'm such a big college football fan. I watch like 300 games a year, like
Oh my
literally
god.
everyone I can. Um, and they start at, I think the first one start at 9 p.m. there, and then the last one start at 3 a.m. Where it's just like, okay, this is literally an all night thing if I want to follow it as much as I do. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do that. So you became an Arsenal fan out of spite. Do you support both the men's and women's team?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I support the women's team more. Obviously, Vivian Miedema is on there, so it's kind of
The
easy to do
goat.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just happy now that it's easier to support the women's team because they actually broadcast the games. Because when I first, got into Arsenal, it was just like they just did not give a shit. And I mean, they're still there's still old asshole English men at our pub that I fight with who like still are like women shouldn't be playing soccer. And I'm like, every single women's team is better than every men's team. How do you explain that? Like,
For
how do you
real.
explain that? Like national team, like women's super league, NWSL, it doesn't matter. The women are better than the men every single time.
Yeah, I mean, the NWSL compared to the MLS is so day and night where it's like it's obviously the one of the top leagues in the world and the MLS is not in the top five.
I'm indoctrinating my niece, and I took her to her first NWSL game last year. We saw the Red Stars, and we saw them play OL Reign. So we saw one of
Oh,
Megan
wow.
Rapinoe's last games.
Yeah,
And it's like she didn't know who Megan Rapinoe was at the time, but like if she continues with soccer, she that will mean a lot to her one day.
for sure.
So I took her to see that, and then for the Fire's season opener, they were playing out of town. So I went over to her house and was like, "We're gonna watch the Fire game," and she's already like, I like the Red Stars more. That was more fun. This game's kind of boring. The men fall down a lot. And I was
It's
just
so
like,
true.
I'm like, observations from a 9-year-old, 110% correct. Like, you're better than any pundit. Please fire Alexi Lalas and get my niece
Oh
on
my
there.
God. He's the fucking worst. I'm just
Can
glad
we
that
get
like
him
kid.
on public disgrace? But I mean, he doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve to be in the
No, he
company
doesn't
of such
deserve that.
auteurs.
Um, I think it's just so cool now that like kids who grew up playing soccer actively have things to look up to because like when I played, no one on our team was like, I'm a big supporter of this team. Nobody. It was like
Yeah.
people would kind of care during the World Cup, but even that, it wasn't a sustained thing where it felt like playing a sport that was very isolated. That was, oh, this is just a thing that people do. No one really cares, you know? Where
Or
I
people
felt
would
like
like, go ahead, sorry.
oh, it just felt like playing like a second tier sport, honestly.
Well, and I was gonna say too, like I feel like also people would like make fun of you and like people would bully you. Like I talked to friends that like ended up getting into soccer later in life, and they're like, "Yeah, I used to love soccer, but everyone thought I was weird for like wanting to watch it, so I just like stopped caring and focused on other sports."
Yeah, I feel like it's very much like a beginner sport in the States where it's like what's what you play when you're really young and then you figure out what your sport is.
And then it gets way too expensive to like continue, which is like another gatekeepy thing. Um,
Yeah.
I also love about soccer too is like maybe it's just because of the type of people I attract, but I have met a lot of freaks and weirdos and kinksters and people in the lifestyle and like swingers and just like all sorts of people that are into soccer. Like I have my own little like kinky group of like soccer friends that I talk shop with.
Yeah, I feel like it's also like way more open to politics. Like FC St. Pauli is like what got me back into soccer because I was like, there's a complete anarchist club that is completely open about that and it's owned by the community. And it's just like there's so many different ways where in the United States, it's just everything is so corporate. Other than like the Green Bay Packers, everything's owned by a billionaire, you
Yep.
know?
And it's
And
all
it's
tied with the military industrial complex and also like Christo-fascism, and it's just like all connected and all gross.
yeah, so I think just like being able to see that and Dave Zarin is a sports writer who really spoke to me, who like started covering sports from a left-wing perspective that made me be like, okay, you can actively engage in this. And it's not just like some broy bullshit culture that has nothing to do with reality.
Yeah, and it's still like accessible in a way too. Like if I go to an NFL game and like I experience some sort of like fucked up things that happen to me in the stands, like I could probably try to email the team or the supporters relation
Hmm.
person and like I probably wouldn't hear back unless I like went
Definitely not.
public and took to Twitter. But you know, if I go to a Fire game and like something happens, it's like the team knows me, I know them, I know exactly who to email, and it's like if I have an issue I want to raise, if I have a banner I want to create and like make happen, it's like I know exactly who to email and get into contact with. It's like it doesn't seem so far away and so distanced. And they are trying to change that as the league gets more corporate, but there's going to be, you know, dominatrices like me yelling at them.
I feel like it's starting, the culture's starting to become more, I don't even know if it's like a European style culture, but it's like a specific soccer culture here now where there's like, it's very pro gay, very pro trans, very, you know, about these supporter groups as much as it's actually about the club.
It really is. And I mean, to a detriment too. Someone tweeted a year or two ago that like soccer supporters in the US are just all grown up musical theater kids. And
A
I was
little
like,
bit.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Because it's like we have these pep clubs and it can get really like political in a non like political way, but just, like any group, there's always like drama and stuff. So you just have to remember like what the fight is. I feel like sex work is similar too, where it's like things get convoluted and like people may fight and whatnot, but at the end of the day, like we know it needs to be done to like push forward.
Yeah, I wish there was more. Like, college football is the one sport I'm 100% into, because I think in the United States it's the closest thing we have to that soccer culture where it's been around for 150 years. There's all these traditions that every single school or team has. But like I feel like the supporters groups are not the same. Like I wish there was more of a role of the fans. Obviously, you're getting 110,000 people into a stadium. That's a big fan base, but also I feel like it's not quite unique enough as where you go to like something in the Baltics that there's a derby and it's like straight up flares being thrown, there's like bombs, like all the crazy shit. And I feel like a lot of the times American sports wants to hype it like that and be like, for instance, when Michigan and Michigan State played last year, there were sports reporters being like, if you're a Michigan fan, you shouldn't go. It's a danger. And it's like, you realize in Europe, there's derbies where the opposing fans can't even be within 5 blocks of the stadium because
Yeah, like
there
it's
will
not
be a
that
riot.
serious.
Yeah, like,
I would say like the one cool thing about Chicago and another reason why you should come visit, to add to your list,
for
like
sure.
other than like kinky porn, city in the making. Um, and I don't know if other cities are like this, but I think because Chicago is such a transplant city, all of the a lot of the sports bars, especially around like Wrigleyville and Lakeview, a lot of them will adopt a college football team,
Hmm.
and like the supporters of that team, will go meet, whatever the game whenever the game is on. So it's
Hmm.
like it really like I think we talked about this on Twitter, but I went to my first one with a friend who was in town. She's a Longhorns fan. And
Oh yeah, you chose a very good game to go to.
that was a really good game. And
Hmm.
honestly, like there were $8 22-ounce shiners. All the appetizers were 50% off. I was like, am I a Longhorns fan now? So I can just like go to every game and like get these deals. I'll wear orange. I'm easy.
The
Um,
burnt orange is a good color, I do have to say.
yeah, I'm like, I can pull this off. I could do this. But it did remind me of soccer, just that
Yeah.
like we may not know each other, but we support the same team and we're meeting at this designated spot. And like I thought that was cool. Honestly, between you and my friend, I might do the unthinkable and actually start paying attention to college football this
You
upcoming season.
should, if you accept it as being very dumb, like just
I
accept
love
it.
dumb shit.
It's dumb as hell. It's a dumb reality TV show that just keeps going and going.
I watch enough of those already. Like,
Yeah, like that's what
bring
it
it on.
is. Also, I think it's like the thing where you're born into your club in the UK. It's very much how it is with college football if you're from one of the states. Like I was born into like the first clothing I was given when I was born, it was all Michigan football shit. Like every kid in my
Destined
family,
from
it's
birth.
just that's what it is. And it's just like this is really since birth thing and it's a family thing. Like my stoic Midwestern grandpa was like expressed to like feelings of like mortality and be like, you guys are gonna have a lot more, but this is my last championship. And we're like, all you've ever said to us is like, huh, what? Damn kids, like my whole
And these
life.
like
And then you're
emotional barriers
yeah,
are like breaking through Michigan
yeah.
football.
Yeah, that was the day of the national championship where it was like, oh wow.
I'm trying to think about who my team would be, and I guess like the closest would be Mizzou. But I don't feel like I just don't feel like
I can
who do
help
you
you. I
help
can
me
help
like?
you. So do you want a team like Arsenal?
I mean, I honestly support more. I generally support more underdog type teams. Like Arsenal's a little out of
Okay.
character for me. I like teams with some fight that don't have everything handed to them. I mean, Arsenal's gone through a rough patch, but historically, like, come on,
Okay. So I mean, the one that
Not
like
a
sticks out.
complete failure, but like not the best.
Is there like any region of the country that you have particular positive feelings towards or really dislike? Like, is there
I
any
mean,
state you hate?
there's no state that I really hate. I would say like my parents are from the East Coast, so like I try to support East Coast teams when I can. But
Okay.
then I also support the Portland Thorns, which is kind of so I'm open to wild cards.
Okay. So a fun one. They've never won an actual championship, but they've been close multiple times. Oregon, they have a million different uniform combinations. They never wear the same one twice.
Okay.
Because they're the owner of Nike is an alum there, so every single game they have a different jersey. It's always like super flashy. But if you want something more like traditional and that's local, maybe Wisconsin, they just got a new coach. It's possible that could be interesting. I also know like Chicago to Madison. It's like it's a different state and stuff. But like I definitely wouldn't support Illinois. I wouldn't support Northwestern. You could always come to Michigan, but also it feels a little bit bandwagony now because
Yeah.
Michigan used to be shit. Like the 2010s, like everyone would be like, "Why do you support this thing? Why do you put energy into this?" It's always going to disappoint you. They're bad. And then since once the pandemic ended, they've been great.
Like a phoenix from the COVID ashes.
Yeah, the COVID year was bad. So every team tried to play 12 games during COVID. They played nine. Wait, yeah, they played nine. They won two of them. And then the entire team got COVID and it added an entire outbreak, so they had to cancel the rest of their season. So,
Okay, I'm here for this. I'm here for this reality TV show.
but
I'm gonna
like,
look into Oregon because I think you honestly had me at the like wardrobe changes.
yeah,
Wardrobe changes.
that's really
Wardrobe.
good. Texas is honestly probably fits into Arsenal. Historically successful. Lately, like that's as close as they got in probably the last 10, 12 years. So there's like a lot of like really great historical stuff. They're moving into what essentially is the EPL of college football, which is the
Okay.
SEC. So it's the best teams. I mean, there's a few shit teams in it, but like for the most part, the level is the highest. They're getting the best athletes. But if you want to do Big Ten, I think Wisconsin could be fun. If you want a team that's like very depressing right now, but has a lot of history and potential, maybe Nebraska.
Nebraska is a great Bruce Springsteen album. That's also very depressing too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want
So,
to be. I feel like there's enough depression going around in the world right now.
okay. Then, like, if you want to have a positive time, I mean, I guess Mizzou is kind of on the come up, though. They beat Ohio State last year in their bowl game, which they weren't expected to do. Being a
I just
Michigan
don't want to
fan,
resort. I don't want to reward Missouri. Like
that's
I'm all about
true.
punishing Missouri.
I mean, then you could be a Kansas fan. Kansas and Missouri hate each other. If you want to go like full evil on your home state, like,
I think ooh, I think that would cause some interpersonal conflicts.
but yeah,
I am really leaning towards Oregon though. I'm gonna have to check
it's
out
fun.
these jerseys and like see because of course it always like comes down when it doesn't matter or have meaning, it usually comes down to the jerseys for me.
Yeah, they're definitely the coolest. And I mean, some of them horrific, but some of them very good. So, yeah, if you get into that this year, feel free to hit me up anytime.
No,
That's
I want
my whole
to.
Saturdays. Yeah.
As if I need like another sport or another thing to do, but like sometimes I feel so lost and empty when like Arsenal games end on like Saturday or Sunday mornings that I'm
hmm
like, I need something more. And college football could be that thing.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
you have a few like fairly local
fairly cool.
teams if you wanted to see something in person. Like you have Northwestern, um, Northern Illinois is in DeKalb. So, so you have a few options. But yeah, I have a few final questions for you. I'm glad we could get into all the sports stuff though.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I feel like we could have like literally had like just like hours of that.
Yeah, maybe more in the future.
And like my internet is kind of
Oh yeah, I'm
is
feeling a
it
little bit of an
back? My
echo.
internet's being weird.
Okay. So yeah, I have two final questions for you. So what have you not been able to do that you've wanted to do so far in your career? Because you've been in it for a minute. Like what's a big maybe scene you want to do or something of the sort that you still want to accomplish?
Honestly, as much as we just talked about sports and soccer, I really wanna, like, go way into that niche and just start making, like, soccer femdom content. I have a lot of ideas, some of which I wanna create soon, but just, like, really lean hard into that. I feel like I've been, like, hesitant to do that, um, but then everything tells me that I should just go ahead and do it anyway. Like, I feel, like, cheesy and lame being like, "Ooh, I'm a soccer dom," but, I mean, it draws submissives to me, it is something I'm passionate and knowledgeable about, and it is something unique about me. So, honestly, just make more kinky sports content and see where that goes.
I fucking love that. I think like the whole hazing thing, like hazing porn in BDSM is still so hot. Like whenever I come across it.
And there's just so many different, like, ways to take it. I mean, I do, like, chastity bets with some of my submissives where I'm like, "Okay, like, if Arsenal, like, loses, we're adding this onto your sentence. If they draw, like, you can have, like, a prostate release, like, just all that sort of stuff. And then, like, hazing and also, like, encouraged by things.
Hmm.
Like, there's just so many fun, crazy, kinky directions I could take it. And
I
I have
love
enough
that.
soccer. I have like 50 soccer jerseys, so like they're just dying to be worn.
Do you think the clubs would like be upset or
I'm like waiting to get like a cease and desist at some point. I don't know how seriously they take this. So no one has ventured into this territory that much except for this English creator named I think Bella Rose. And she's like big Arsenal OnlyFans creator. And she went as far as to go to the Emirates in London wearing body paint of an Arsenal jersey and like walking around. And I don't think the club like did anything, but there was a lot of like negative publicity because people were like, "Hey, there's children." Um,
yeah.
yeah. So it's quite a publicity stunt, but like I don't remember any fallout about that or them being like, "Hey, you can't say Arsenal, you can't wear Arsenal stuff on your, porn sites." So I don't know, maybe a new frontier
I
of
know.
cease and desist.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's yeah, I'm like just like the matchups, are you gonna like advertise it that way where it's like Arsenal at
Yeah, like I'm like, "Sorry, internet again. Are we
Yeah,
good?"
that's oh
Okay.
yeah. I think it's working better now. But yeah, that I think that's fun, especially if you advertise it that way where you're like Arsenal at Man City or something.
Exactly, like, I really just need to lean into it, and, I don't wanna say it's, like, too late this season, but let's just say, like, during the Premier League off season, I'm gonna be really, like, plotting and looking at calendars and, like, planning content and clips around that.
That's really cool. And you could do the Champions League. You could do all sorts of things.
All sorts of stuff. Like, the world is my soccer oyster.
I love that. I feel like that's my two worlds is the sports world and the porn world and that you're trying to mix them. It's so fucking cool.
Well, I'm
So,
here for it, and I like, connecting with, like-minded performers too, because I think it is just nice to, like, I don't know, just be sports simpletons and just like connect to those parts of ourselves. Like we're obviously, very creative, like interesting people. So it's nice to connect to like our more primal, like football instincts.
yeah, I really like it just because I feel like it's one of like the few things that's true community still that's left because it's like if you're watching a TV show or a movie, there's not that many communal experiences. Like everyone sees things at a different time. With sports, it's like the only thing where everyone's experiencing it at the same time for the most part.
And like if you move to a different city or you're visiting a city, it's like you can find your team's bar or a place where they congregate, walk in, and I'm sure you'll meet at least one or two like new friends wherever you go.
For sure. So I have one final question for you. This is the only kind of like BuzzFeedy sort of like mystical question. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and you could magically change one thing in porn. What would it be?
Oof. Where to begin? Where to begin? I mean, honestly, I would just make all of the criminalization efforts disappear. I think
For real.
that affects everybody, and like we can't. we can work on creating change in porn and we can do our best, but until the system changes, there's only so much we can do. So I would just wave a magic wand and get criminalization to just disappear.
Yeah,
And
decrim.
discrimination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
decrim, that's a very good response. I feel like that solves so much stuff. Yeah, I'm hoping it really picks up more places. It seems like it's really trending that way in Europe. The EU released something last week that was like, we need to decriminalize sex work as like a health thing. So I'm really hoping it starts to pick up more here, but also we're in the United States and obviously it's not going great here.
Well, the Washington dancers did get the first strippers' bill of rights passed, so that was another win this week. So,
Oh, I do have one more thing if you do want to be sold on my team, Michigan. So sex work is decriminalized in the county where the University of Michigan is.
oh shit.
Yeah,
Okay, that might sway me.
I'm
That
just
might sway.
saying, yeah, so that's like a pretty big positive. But yeah, I think there's just like little pockets in the states that I feel like are starting to understand, and especially
Yeah.
counties that are like further left. But I'm really hoping there's more in the future. I could see Chicago being one of those places eventually, though, where I
I hope
feel,
so too. I just worry about like the neoliberalism kind of faction here where like, they might pretend to be about certain things, but at the end of the day, they'll be about those certain things at the, expense of sex workers. So,
yeah, I feel like both Chicago and where I live in San Francisco, it's like there's such deep-rooted corruption where it's not even about a political party, where it's just
yep,
like there's been this corruption for 150 years, so it's gonna continue this corruption no matter who gets in charge.
yep. Basically the United States in a nutshell.
Well, I had such a great time chatting with you. I can't wait to see what you do with porn, with soccer porn. If you ever need a girl in an Ajax jersey, I have one. So,
Hell yeah.
just let me know. But where can everyone find you on social media?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Maddie_Royce. And then on my Twitter and on my Insta, you can find links to my website that has all my links to all of my other sites. So pretty easy to find. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
And
thank
in
you.
case I didn't like make it clear, please come visit. Please come visit.
I definitely will. Honestly, since moving, I always went through Chicago coming back, and that I didn't last time so out of character. So I'm sure I will be before the end of the year. I love Chicago. And it's always like the big city to me. What even when I go abroad, I still think of Chicago on the same level as like New York or LA or, Paris or, so
Chicagoans appreciate you for that because we think that we're on the same level as those cities, but not everyone agrees.
yeah, but I just love what you and everyone else is doing in Chicago, and it just like makes me really hopeful about kind of the future of porn in the Midwest and BDSM in the Midwest. So keep doing what you're
Yeah,
doing, and yeah, I can't wait to see your soccer porn.
thank you. And yeah,
Ar-
keep doing what you're doing too. I didn't want to fangirl too much, but like you are definitely an icon and on my icon
Aw,
list as
thanks.
well. And I'm not saying that to suck up. I never give a compliment in. I just had to say it before the interview was over.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. I feel like that's like the shit that really matters to me is like actively having an impact in the Midwestern porn scene because like in a lot of ways I wish I could have stayed there and had a porn career, but at that point it just wasn't possible. So y'all inspire me so much to be like, oh my God, if I did move back to the Midwest someday, I don't have to
Aw,
leave all this behind. And yeah, I definitely that's make some weird Chicago porn based off of soccer someday, like
I'm
100%.
here for it. Bring your cleats.
Oh my God, I do have two pairs now, so I'm ready for it. Well, thank you so much, and bye, everyone.
Bye.